Yeah, the biggest realization is that you only think about business at the very start, for sure. Like, first thing when I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about what materials I need, what my next steps are, and then working all day, figuring things out, answering phone calls, sending off emails, trying to chase more work, trying to organise to go out and do quotes and talk to other potential clients while trying to do the work. And then this massive big day turns into getting home at 7 o'clock at night and then jumping into bed, and then till I fall asleep just thinking about what am I doing tomorrow, where am I working next week, how am I haven't answered that email, I haven't chased this up, and it's just so full on so quickly. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to the Tradies Success Podcast. On this podcast, you're going to hear real life stories from trade business owners to minimize the mistakes you're going to make, maximize profit, create more time freedom, and minimize emotional overwhelm. So hit subscribe and follow us now and enjoy the episode. Hey everyone, welcome to the Tradies Success Podcast. Here today with Jack Tuffley from Tuff Built Constructions. So pumped to have you on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, Greg.
Absolutely. All right, so today we're going to be talking about your realization that you're doing it all and you figured out, like, I need some system to be able to hand over responsibility to other people, because doing it yourself, probably wasn't the best way to move forward as a business owner. So really excited to jump in to that when we get later in the show. But I want to really dive into your journey in getting into your trade and what got you into the construction industry. And then, we'll walk through like getting into business, and then that first period in business where you're like completely overwhelmed because you're almost moving into a whole new role. How's that sound?
Yeah, sounds good.
Awesome, man. Well, let's go back to you starting in your trade. So how did you get into the trade?
So originally I actually went into a school-based apprenticeship through my high school. And yeah, I just didn't like being at school. Sort of felt like it was just work experience once a week. And then sort of had the conversation with my parents, and they said, yeah, once you get your license, you can leave school if you get a full-time job. So jumped straight into it when I got my P's and didn't really look back. So, yeah. Yeah,
awesome. So what was the school-based apprenticeship like? Because that wasn't around when I was in high school. What was that? What was the structure of that, and how did it work?
Yeah, so basically over year 11 and year 12, you complete your first year of your apprenticeship. So you go to work 1 day a week. You do TAFE 1 day a week, I think it is, and then 3 days of school. So it's a good setup. It's really good to sort of start introducing you to the trades and stuff like that. But I was definitely impatient. I just wanted to be on the tools full time. So
yeah. So it sounds like a more efficient way in terms of like time at work to get through your first year. It would be 4 days at work and 1 day at TAFE if you're a full-time first year apprentice.
Yeah.
So you get away with 1 day over 2 years. And it's probably through the school term as well. What did you do on school holidays? Did you work with the company full-time for?
Well, yeah, I didn't really get to experience much of that because I left pretty much straight away. But yeah, you worked through the school holidays.
Yeah, right. Cool. That's awesome. And so you jumped into your trade. What was that first couple of years like?
Yeah, it was definitely a shock to the system. School, you sort of just do your own thing. If you're mucking around or not paying attention, the teacher can only control so many people in the classes. It was sort of, get to work, and when you're there, you got to work. So I learned pretty quickly from my first boss a good work ethic, and definitely faced a lot of challenges, not knowing what I was doing, not knowing what certain tools were called and all that sort of stuff. But you pick it up as you go, and every day, like when I was learning new things or learning what a new tool was, I was just getting more and more keen and eager to become a tradesman. So I just really stuck to it, and I loved every minute of it.
Yeah. So so you're in the carpentry trade. What sort of buildings were you working on through your apprenticeship?
We were doing a lot of old renovations, so old houses in the Blue Mountains and stuff like that. So we were doing a lot of reclads, new flooring, a lot of weird little alterations and stuff like that. So like a lot of the work was pretty detailed as well. Got to do a lot of decks, pergolas. It was such a sort of wide scope, which is, I think made it more attractive as well. Every day was different. One day we could be underneath a house trying to repier it. The next week could be doing a deck, and then the week later we're working on a commercial project doing false ceilings for lift doors. Like it was, yeah.
That's awesome. How good's that for an apprenticeship? Just that diversity to be able to test your skills and really cross-pollinate what you've been learning.
Yeah.
So what would be, for me, I remember back as the electrician, like trying to understand switches and how a switch worked. What was that thing for you where you're like, oh, I just can't figure out how you get this so good as a tradie? Like you see the tradies do it nearly effortlessly. What was the thing for you?
I'd say probably roofing is the most challenging thing that I came across. Didn't get too much experience in it because it's one of those things that you only got to do every now and then. But every time we got into it, it was just, yeah, their head was a bit of a scramble. The different angles to remember, all your different planes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the most challenging thing I found was definitely roofing. So
what made roofing so challenging? What was the thing?
Just because there's so many different moving parts, like all your different angles. You had to remember all your props. If you're like, when you're pitching a roof, you got to pitch it off certain walls. Nowadays they just throw trusses up, and trusses are definitely a lot easier and more time efficient. But yeah, pitching a roof is definitely an art form, which I still haven't quite mastered, if I'm honest.
Yeah. And with roofing, like what would be, what's some of how do you work out the angles? Like what do you have on a piece of paper? Is that engineered? Like what's the thing that you use to do that?
There's definitely a few different ways. If you were to talk to my TAFE teacher, he would have told you to get your board out and you've got all your different I think there's 8 or 9 different angles through a roof, and he's got it all mapped out with a sliding bevel. Yeah. But a lot of the stuff you can just do it into your calculator on your phone. I've got an app called Chippy Tools, and it basically tells you all your angles that you need for the roof pitch that you've got. So
yeah, awesome. Cool. And so going through your trade, you qualified as a tradie. When did it come into your mind that you wanted to become a business owner?
Oh, probably when I was a second-year apprentice.
Yeah, you're ready.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Probably from younger than that, actually. My grandfather had an excavation company, so growing up, I was sort of all around that, playing on the machines as a kid and stuff like that, and loved sort of seeing what he was doing. So I've always sort of had it in the back of my mind that, I want to run a business one day. Yeah,
cool. And so when you finished your trade, were you pretty much looking to get out and start your business?
Yeah, well, I did it a bit funnily. So I finished the trade, and I've always wanted to operate excavators as well because my grandfather had an excavation company. So the decision was either operate plant or start my own company. So I got into operating plant, went and worked for a civil company for, I think it was about 9 or 10 months. And just thought, nah, this isn't for me. A lot of standing around and all that sort of stuff. And I don't know, I like to be moving around a bit and all that. So I decided to take the plunge into it.
Awesome, man. And how old are you now? Because you're still, I think I remember when we caught up the other week, you said you were only a couple of years into business. So
yeah, I'm only 23.
Yeah, 23, business owner. How long you've had your business for?
I think it's about 6 months now.
Yeah, awesome. Great work. Yeah, I was 22 when I started as well. Completely excited to get into it, not having no idea what I was getting into. I'm sure you were like as well. Yeah. So what's the first 6 months been like for you? So you started your business. What was that starting point like?
I started doing stuff on the weekends. So I wasn't officially a business, just doing like cash work and stuff like that. And then I got a good recommendation, so I went and done another job for someone else, and the job was a little bit longer. So I actually took a few days off my normal job to finish that job, and I made like 3 times the amount in those couple of days than my whole week's wage. Yeah. So I was just like, I'm just going to go for it. Had a chat to my partner, and just jumped in head first and sort of didn't really know what I was diving into, but was just keen to get into it. So
yeah. Awesome. No, it's so cool. And so when you did start and all of a sudden, you had these few first projects, you knocked them out, got paid, you're like, awesome, there's the cash. What became a reality for you? Like what started seeping into your mind about running a business? And you talk about like realizing there's way more to it than just rocking up and doing the job. What's some of the biggest realizations that you've had over the last 6 months?
Yeah, the biggest realization is that you only think about business at the very start, for sure. Like, first thing when I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about what materials I need, what my next steps are, and then working all day, figuring things out, answering phone calls, sending off emails, trying to chase more work, trying to organize to go out and do quotes and talk to other potential clients while trying to do the work. And then this massive big day turns into getting home at 7 o'clock at night and then jumping into bed, and then till I fall asleep just thinking about what am I doing tomorrow, where am I working next week, how am I haven't answered that email, I haven't chased this up, and it's just so full on so quickly. Yeah.
Well, I'm super proud of what you've done in 6 months, and I think when we tell people, what you've actually done in 6 months, a lot of people will be blown away. So we work with people that have been in business 5 years and haven't done what you have in your first 6 months. So when you did realize that, what's been the biggest things that you've been able to do? First of all, like, tell us about your business now. So 6 months in, what's your size of your business? What's the structure, and how does it look now?
Yeah, so now I've got 2 tradesmen on board. I've got an apprentice on board, and I've got a VA admin starting in 2 or 3 weeks from now.
It's so cool.
Yeah.
So cool. So what was that first driving factor for you to get your first tradie on, and how did that go? Like, how did that come about, and what impact did it have for you?
Oh, it was definitely advice from the academy. I sort of was just in the whirlwind at the start, just going through the motions of it all, and I thought there's got to be a better way than just this, like, craziness. So I started doing a little bit of research, and then I saw a couple of the videos from the podcast and all that sort of stuff. So I started listening to the podcast and hearing the other stories, and I thought that's something I definitely want to get involved with. So I signed up and jumped on the first initial call, had a conversation and all that. And then I was super hesitant because I didn't even consider a price factor in it. So then I put it off for maybe a month or so and just sort of sat on it. And just, through that month, it was just absolutely chaos, and everything that was being said on the podcast was just resonating.
Yeah.
So then I just decided, you know what, I'll just jump into it. And honestly, it's the best thing I've ever done. Just being opened up to this world of realization with, like, the org chart and all the systems and processes that can be put in place, and just the overall realization of, you don't have to be in it alone. Like, I felt super alone at the start, but now if I've got a drama in accounting, I just hit up Chantel. If I'm struggling with my mindset, I speak to Laura. And, like, there's so many coaches, so many different things. If I'm feeling pumped about something that I've just achieved, but I don't want to brag to friends or brag to family members, I can just pop it into the community, and everyone's just, like, vibing off it. Everyone loves it. So it's just like, it's such a good sort of setup. So yeah,
man, I love our community. Like, we're all inspired by everyone's wins. Like, when people share what they've done, it's definitely a inspiring thing to watch someone, especially who you might have started with, and you see them progressing forward, and you're like, holy shit, they've taken off. I'm going to try and catch up. And there's this, like, camaraderie, and you just want to do it together and just be side by side.
Yeah.
And every challenge that you go through, like, we've got people who have gone through it, like, so many hundreds of people, like, who have gone through the hiring the first VA, or hiring a first tradie, or hiring an ops manager, hiring a general manager. Like, there's people who have done what you're doing, and they are there to support you through it, and to inspire each other and provide that support. So stoked that you've been able to jump in and just take action straight away, because that's resulted in you getting this 2 tradies, apprentice, and nearly an admin to support you as well. What does life look like now, having a team like that, compared to when it was just you, maybe just that month before you joined the academy?
Yeah, the month before I joined the academy was just chaos. Everything was messy. There was no systems, no processes, no support, nothing. It was just, everything was on me. It was just an absolute mess. Whereas compared to now, like, I still haven't got it together. I'm still only 6 months in, but I've got the boys working. They're pushing the jobs forward. I'm able to focus on being on the computer or chasing other work, or talking to future clients, or having meetings and and all that sort of stuff. So I'm not really on the tools anymore. I go on the tools maybe a couple of hours of a week, and that's just to jump in and solve a quick little problem, or just because I really want to, because I love being on the tools.
Yeah.
But it's just, I feel like the jobs are moving along smoother. I'm able to actually focus on growing the Instagram page, the website set up. I've got all the things in the background that I'm starting to tick over. And then, once I have that admin, I've got a list of things that I want her to start doing. And I can just see like the difference that's going to make. I haven't experienced it yet, but I can already see the difference it's going to make by taking the pressure off my shoulders in certain areas, which can then allow me to focus more on that sales and marketing area.
Yeah. And I think that's the benefit of, having proper training around running a trade business, because you already have an understanding of what it could look like. Whereas a lot of people are like, should I hire an admin? Should I not? Should I put on a tradesman? Should I not? And then this uncertainty just makes them wait and I'll just wait a couple more weeks and see what happens. And then business kicks in, and then you're busy again or you're quiet again. And it's just like, as a business owner, it's just out of control all the time. And so what you've done is you've created you're proactively growing right now, which is what people would only do when they get quiet and they've got no work on for a short period of time until they're busy again. So it's so awesome to see, you've created the capacity in your team to allow you to have the time to work on growing the business. And that's exactly what you're doing. And you're working through the freedom pathway just very systematically right now, which is awesome to see.
Yeah.
Cool. And so with the hiring of these tradespeople, you've obviously been able to hire great tradespeople because they're out there doing a great job and you're satisfied with the way they're working. A lot of people hire, a mate, or they might, put an ad up, and the first applicant that comes in, they go, oh yeah, I just need someone. I'm desperate. Can you come on? How did you go about your hiring process to make sure you found the right people? And what was the things that you would recommend to people to think about?
Yeah, I had a session with Jen about hiring. Jen is a superstar. She knows her stuff. So we sort of just went through the ideal candidate of who I want working for me. I figured out who that person was before I even started hiring them.
Yeah.
And then I wrote out the ad, checked it in with her. She said it looked good. And then so I put the ad out there, and I actually got, I can't even remember how many applications. I got quite a few applications. And then my second tradesman was actually from that first that ad hire. Because I put the first tradesman on, realized this is great. And then so I was like, I'm putting a second tradesman on, looked back at those candidates and just picked another one, went through an interviewing process and took him on board as well.
I think that's when we caught up. You just had the first tradie, put him on. He was like, oh, I don't know, I'm thinking about putting this other. I was like, do it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
At that point as well, I also messaged Ben Doran in the community.
Yeah.
He just said, man, just do it.
Yeah.
So
there we go. That's our community supporting each other. Awesome, man. So what you said there is so important. We've got to make sure that we have clearly defined who we need. That's what most people don't do. They're just like, I need someone, anyone, please help me. When you're drowning, you're going to grab at anything, right? You're going to pull, you're going to grab that bit of wood and that might sink. And then you're like, oh, that's not buoyant enough. I've got to grab that. Next thing, when you go, I actually need something that's going to support me here, and you actually define who you need, that's when the magic can happen. And that's the system that we've got, to support the ad creation, the job description, identifying that ideal candidate, and then onboarding them and making sure they're getting the right support to be able to do the job well. And that's what allows you the time, like you said, you've got the time to be in the office and just having a good oversight over the projects. And I'm sure just waiting for this opportunity to, put on some more people to keep growing the business.
Yeah, that's definitely the plan.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So, what's your hopes and aspirations? Where you're heading? What's your goals? Where you focused on growing to?
Look, I always want to have my hands in the pie. I always want to be involved. I don't want to build myself out of my company. But I definitely do want to get to a point where I can just say to my partner, let's go to Europe for a week or two, and we can. The company is going to run fine. I don't have to have any dramas. I don't have to make any phone calls. That's definitely one of the biggest goals, is to get to that point. But yeah, for me personally as well, through my career, I want to be able to support my partner so that we can start a family together, and she doesn't have to worry about work, and I can just provide, and then she can raise our family. That's that's one of my big goals as well.
Well, what's a real cool thing that I've been able to sort out with the way I've structured our businesses is be there together, be able to parent together, and it's not just mum doing it, it's dad and mum. And there's we both have a life, and we both have a career, and we both have our family, and it's pretty special. Like I couldn't do that the way I was running the business 10 years ago. Like there's no fucking way. And that's why I'm so passionate about helping guys like you, like be able to build that model of freedom. So you do have that flexibility to be able to design your own schedule, and to be able to go on any trip that you want, whenever you want. Literally you go, let's go to Europe next week. Yeah, sweet. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, man, I'm stoked, because I reckon you're going to be able to do it. You're going to be so young to have achieved that as well, by the time you do. And that's going to be pretty special to see you have that business running like it's going to be in probably just a year or two. So it's exciting.
Yeah.
So I'd like to circle back now to project management, because you talked about you guys are out there at the moment and you like to pop out and support, project manage the project you got on, make sure it's running to schedule. What's your recent experience having these new tradies on in making sure they're onboarded properly and able to achieve the desired result on the projects you're running? So talk us through that.
I just found that I communicate a lot. Like I'll over communicate. So I'm always talking to them, always making sure, like, if there's any dramas on site, please give me a call. Like I want you to feel like you can talk to me. Just because I'm not on site doesn't mean I'm not available.
Yeah.
So I've done my very best to be as supportive as possible through their transitions. I've implemented doing monthly one-on-one meetings with each person. So I sit down and have a chat to them, I talk about the company goals, where I see the company heading, and then I say what I think my goal for them is, where I see them heading, and then I give them the floor as well and just say, tell me what you think. I want to know how you are finding the job, how you're finding the culture. I want to know everything, where you want to go, what direction you want to take your career, and how can I support that as well. So I think having that really open communication with the boys is super important. And like I've only had them for a short amount of time, but I can already tell that they sort of appreciate it, and it's working. So
yeah, so good. Like that's what culture is made of, man. Like that's to be able to really talk to your team and be able to get on their level and just be like, what do you guys reckon we should do? Like, let's do this together. Let's grow together. Them understanding the org chart as well, and what part you play is really important. Yeah. I was actually in the sauna yesterday here in Byron, and there was just this whole construction, like young guys came in. They were all from the same company. And then I was chatting in the sauna. I was just sitting there listening, and when the boss went out, he was a young guy as well. And like, fuck, I couldn't imagine working for anyone else at the moment. Like all my other bosses were dickheads, and and then they were just having a rant about like how shit everyone was they worked for before, and this guy's a legend. He's actually, he actually cares about us, and we want to, we want to work hard for them, And so it just goes to show, like, if you're an asshole boss, like, it's not going to result in a good outcome. And so
I think it's super important to treat your boys firstly with respect. They've done the hard yards too. They've done their trade. They've worked through their apprenticeship. They're the ones out there completing the work. That, like, a company is nothing without your workers. So I really try and make sure that I show them that appreciation as well. I think that's super important. And I found as well, just being vulnerable, just you're a human as well, just like they are. Just because you're the boss of the company doesn't really mean anything. Like I try and get pretty vulnerable with them sometimes, and I tell them, like, I'm having a bit of a stressful day, or I'm struggling as well, and just like having that communication both ways as well, I think is so beneficial, and it makes the guys sort of understand where you're coming from as well. So if you're feeling a little bit stressed, or you're worried about time frames, and you just say, boys, like I need to get this over the line, you're not approaching them like an asshole on their back. They go, no worries. Yeah. It's more collaborative that way.
Yeah, I think it's so awesome to see that you've got that relationship with your team. And what I see, having hired hundreds of people now and seeing people hire the wrong people as well, because you've taken the time to identify the right candidate, you've interviewed appropriately, and you put the right job out, that ad out that's attract the right type of people. You've now got this group of people that you can be vulnerable with. Where it can be challenging, which you might not have experienced yet, is when you hire someone that's not suitable for the team, and they're not suitable for your culture, and it's really hard to talk to them, and it's really hard because they have an ulterior motive, or they're fuck the authority sort of situation, like they've got this power struggle. And I've worked with people, in response in the past, that it didn't matter how hard I tried to connect with them, they always had a problem with, hierarchy, or as much as I try to not make it a hierarchical system, it just is. Naturally, you're still the boss at the end of the day. And so what's really cool about what you've done, and so early in your business, is because you've invested in yourself, because you've invested in your business, and you've learnt how to do it right, you don't have to go through all of those really challenging times that really turns people off. You hear people in the construction industry like, fuck hiring someone, they're shit, no one's good enough, like they can't do the job properly. Well, they just hired the wrong people in the past. They never really did it right. And so now they've been, damaged forever, and they'll never move forward, and they'll never grow to a place where they're going to have that level of freedom, because they've been burnt so bad by maybe a couple of hires that were just completely the wrong hires, and not suitable for the culture they were trying to create. So it's interesting, man. And I'm super stoked for you. That's cool.
Yeah. Loving it.
Sweet. What other things would you say have been some of the biggest realizations or learnings, in the last 6 months from your, first 6 months of business?
Oh, just how little I knew about business is definitely the biggest realization. There's so many moving parts. You're wearing all the hats, as you say, in all the org chart stuff. Like, you don't realize that there are so many sections to it. You just think, running a business is just turning up to work and doing the work, and that's it, get paid, go home. But it's so much more than that. Like, all the organizational stuff behind it, doing your quotes, following up your quotes. And you don't win all your quotes either. That's a huge thing that I found as well. And then you've got to understand your cost of operations. There's a million different things to it. I was underpricing myself massively when I first started. I'd price a job at what I thought, that sounds right. And the client would go, can you do it any cheaper? And I go, I could probably knock a little bit off. And then at the end of the day, you just realize you make no money. So understanding your cost of operations, I think, is definitely a number one that you got to get on top of. Because now I just say, this is my price. And if they try and talk me down, I just say, I'm obviously not the right fit for the job. And I just want people to keep in mind as well, you get what you pay for. Yeah,
100%. And you being confident in your price like that is a positive thing. Like, the client will go, yeah, I get it. I was just seeing if you could do it any cheaper, if they're the right people anyway. So what were you charging per hour back when you started?
It was...
Do you remember?
Well, the very first job I ever done, I actually got pretty lucky. So I built a deck for one of my mate's partners, Nan. And I quoted it, I think it was like 3.5 or 4 grand or something for this deck. And then I sent her the price, and then she actually called me up and she's like, I'm not paying you that much. She's like, I'm going to pay you 7 grand because I've got other quotes who are saying 9, 10 grand. She's like, you're way too cheap. So I was like, I'm not going to say no to getting more money. So I actually went and done that job. And even after that job, when I figured out how much all my insurances were, all the cost of all my operations and all that sort of stuff, I realized like I'm only paying myself $15 an hour here. So I think, my original hourly rate was like 50 or 55 an hour.
Oh, yeah.
And then, I had to boost that up.
So what we see is most businesses, whether you're a sole trader or you're the size of Response or bigger, is somewhere between $95 and $125 an hour in cost of operations. And that's at 100% efficiency. So what that means is you're billing for 8 hours a day, every day, all day. Like taking into account annual leave and sick leave, like that's all accounted for in your cost of ops. But, you're billing 8 hours a day, every day, which is pretty hard to do anyway for your team. But then if you are doing that, and you're charging $60 an hour and it's costing you $95 an hour to run the business, it's like negative $25 an hour every hour. And what's crazy is people will run like that for years because you've got all of the tax money, which is not your money, in the bank. So it makes you feel like you got money, but you don't. And then you've got the tax bill hit you and you're like, oh, where am I going to get that money from? And it's because we've been running at a loss for too long.
You hear about it happen all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I literally wrote an article this morning on inflation and how back in 2004, my boss was charging $90 an hour. And that was a big company. We had like 45 vans or something. They would have calculated their cost of ops. They would have known it because to have that many staff, you need to have, otherwise you'd be out of business. So they were charging 90 in 2004. When you apply inflation year on year compounding, and you put it into the Australian calculator, the inflation calculator, you can Google it. It's $149 an hour. So that's the equivalent to them in 2004 charging 90 to today. That's effectively what their charge rate was back. If you account for just inflation. So I compared it to things like bananas and movie tickets and fuel, and everything like that has over doubled in the last 20 years. But there's still tradies charging $90 an hour, which is crazy because it costs them more than that to run the business.
Yeah, and it brings the price down of the overall market because then the market gets too competitive and it makes it hard for people who need to charge accordingly to actually make any money and win jobs because, clients mind, they just go, oh, this guy's $4,000 cheaper to build a deck compared to this guy.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and it creates a false economy, which means that people expect to pay less because there's people out there actually paying for work. Like you're not actually making money. You're paying the client to do the job for them. Yes. So the amount of times I've seen people, even like I saw a job, we went and reviewed it. It was $420,000. It was a big project. It cost them $550,000 to do it. So they paid the client $100 and something thousand to do the job for them, which took them like over a year. So it was just like out of control, right? Like you're like, why would you do that? But that's the reality of our industry, and that's what we've got to educate each other to lift the industry standard and also help people understand that they're losing money. It's no point running a business if you're losing money.
Yeah, that's why it's so important to get that support from people who do know, because when you first start a company, you got no idea what you're doing, really. You got no education in business related stuff, in finances. You don't really know what you're doing. So getting that support is massive.
You were saying when you first had that first phone call that you heard about the investment in the academy and you go, oh, fuck, that's too much. Do you feel that way now?
Oh, I don't even notice it now. It's just, it's factored into the business costs. It's part of it. You don't even notice. Like,
Yeah. So I'd imagine your revenue has gone from what it was as a sole trader to probably 3 times what it was back then. Is that about right?
Yeah, pretty much. So I've done a hire pretty much on every month, and every month I've just been doubling. And I'm just looking at some of these numbers now and I'm going, I can't be running that. That's insane.
Yeah. we do some ROIs on some businesses, and it's just like 100x return on investment. Like, even though it seems like it's expensive, like the return on investment's what matters. And that's what I'm passionate about. I want to blow people's brains with like, this is out of control, this return on investment. You won't get it better in ads. You won't get it better in anything else. No fucking marketing company will get the same result. It's what we pride ourselves on, being able to educate you guys holistically around how to run the business well. So, what about outside of work now? Like, what's life like just in 6 months of like prior to, you learning what you've learned to now? Like, how's it helped you outside of work?
Yeah, I pretty quickly put boundaries in place because when I joined the academy early on, I had quite a few sessions with Lauren, and she's been great for sort of my mindset through business and all of that. But one of the big things that she was drilling in was you got to have time for yourself. You got to be able to switch off. I will admit it's definitely still a bit of a struggle. Sometimes I do catch myself thinking about it on the weekends or after hours and stuff like that. But I'm pretty quick to do a bit of a brain dump on Asana. But yeah, I find I'm able to connect with my partner a bit more, able to actually spend a bit of time, watch a movie together and actually hang out. I can go up and visit my grandparents on the weekend, go and see my mom, go see my dad.
Yeah.
Just being able to have the time for the family and all of that sort of stuff is huge. And it makes going to work during the week more satisfying, if anything. Yeah. You'll
be fully energized. Like, the thing with like being able to disconnect your mind from the work, like, firstly, you got the awareness to be like, to actually consume the movie and to be able to say to yourself, oh, I might go out and see mum and dad or your grandparents or whatever it is. When you're so deep in it, you don't even think about that stuff. Like, that was me so many years ago. Like, it's just, and sometimes I still catch myself as well, where you're so tunnel focused on something, everything else falls to the wayside. You don't even think about it. And that's the beauty of setting boundaries. When you set the boundaries, you can recover. And so when you start Monday, you're fucking on fire and you get so much more done and you procrastinate less and you dominate. Like,
yeah.
Awesome, man. Oh, what a journey. I'm so pumped for you. Let's catch up in a year and do another podcast because I'm pretty excited to see what you do in a year's time.
I'll be taking over, mate. I'll be taking over.
Yeah. Sounds good, man. No, congratulations on everything you've done. I'm really proud of you and keep up the good work. Looking forward to seeing what you do.
Awesome. Thanks for all your support.
No worries. See you later. Thanks.
Cheers, mate. Bye.
Hey, guys, it's Greg here. Thanks for listening to the podcast. For me, growing my trade business was extremely hard. It cost me millions of dollars, so much time trying to figure out what was the right way to do business, and emotionally feeling like I'm letting myself, my partner, and my family down by not knowing how to run my business properly. But I kept working hard and overcame those challenges and created systems and solutions that minimized those mistakes for myself and my team as we grew. Now, Response Electricians, go and Google it. We've got over 1,700 reviews on Google. We've won awards like Electrician of the Year and Service Business of the Year, both state and nationally. I sat on the National Board of Directors for Master Electricians Australia for 2 years, created a real solid awareness of the industry and the construction industry and the challenges you face. And the business runs autonomously over in Perth while I live my life working on the academy in Byron Bay. And I help people like you create freedom from your business as well. Now, having coached and trained thousands of trade business owners, we've developed the Freedom Fighters program. It's a guided pathway in a hybrid training and coaching system that provides you with the right information and steps to take to create freedom, not in years, but now. You can actually create more freedom from your business sooner than you think. So click the link and have a free strategy session with one of our academy experts to fully understand how you can create more time freedom from your trade business, generating more profit, better culture, and more growth in less time.